Here we are back to Genesis chapter 2. We're going to talk about Adam and Eve now. Right, so far in chapter 2, it's only been Adam. Now we're going to talk about Adam and Eve. The woman is going to come into the picture. Let's take a look at that. And we're going to probably talk about some controversial things about the relationship between the man and the woman in marriage, how God created this. Remember, when we talk about these things, we're talking about how God created things, how he intended things, and he really doesn't care what your opinion is. Your opinion and my opinion is why we're in so much trouble today with marriage. God created it the way that he created it because he's the creator of everything. And as he established relationships and he established the male-female relationship, he knew exactly what he was doing, whether I agree with that or not. I have to decide to come into agreement with God, despite my own opinion. And that's hard for proud people to do. You have to be humble. You have to humble yourself to come into agreement with what God says about relationships, about marriage. God is very clear. The Bible is very clear that marriage is between a man and a woman. The Bible is very clear about that. There is no discussion in the Bible anywhere at any time about marriage between people of the same sex. That is not marriage. That's make-believe. That's a fairy tale. You're allowed to live in a fairy tale. You are free to live in a fairy tale. You are free to engage in things that are not real, and believe things that are not true. You're free to do that. You're a human being created with the ability to think and to think wrongly, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, what God says is the successful plan for mankind. Again, I don't care what your opinion is, but you're welcome to it. I don't care what my opinion is. I'm welcome to it. I care what God says about marriage, because when I have found in my life that when I come into agreement with God, things work better, even if I don't like it. I learned to like it because then I'm like, oh man, God was right. He was right about this issue or that issue. But you got to humble yourself to get there. If you think you're right about everything, you're gonna have a hard life. So here we go, right? Genesis chapter 2. God is in verse 17. We got to the point last time in verse 17 where God had told Adam, he had placed him in the garden and he could not eat from one tree. He had that one rule, right? And then verse 18, he starts, and the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone, and I will make him a helper comparable to him." Here we are with this the role of the woman in marriage. This is not a popular position in today's culture, and the culture is corrupt, and the culture is confusing, and the culture is going to tell you one thing today and another thing tomorrow. So believe me, you don't want to rely on the culture, but rely on what God says, and it works. Would you rather be right, or think you're right, or would you rather um, do what brings the greatest success, even if it doesn't make sense to you? I want to do what brings the greatest success, even if it doesn't make sense to me. Makes sense to God, and once you implement it, then it does make sense. But here it says God said the first thing, because so far that everything God has done has been good. The first day, the second day, the third day of creation, all those things have been good. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with a little bit of this cold, allergies, I think. And but this is the first thing that God says it's not good. And he says it's not good for man to be alone. Why isn't it good for man to be alone? Because I'm going to tell you what, man, we're stinking rotten people apart from the right woman. Not any woman, right? Not a woman. The right woman, the woman who loves God and who's sold out to God and who's sold out to loving God. I want a woman who loves God more than she loves me. That's what I want first, right? She's got to love God more than she loves me, because if she loves God more than she loves me, she's going to love me the right way. And my wife loves God. She loves the Lord. She loves Jesus. And therefore she loves me much better than she ever could if I was her first priority. Again, it doesn't make sense in this culture, but that's what it works. It works so well. It just works. So, but he says it's not good for a man to be alone, and it's not, man. I'm going to tell you right now, in the field that I work in with men who are coming out of addiction and prison and all types of poor lifestyle choices and things that they've gone through. Many times, a good woman, a good godly woman, not any woman, not a woman, um, the right woman will calm that man, will help that man to focus, will bring his life into balance, because the Bible says that that woman is a helper comparable to him. That God placed man on this earth. Um, he created man to produce. I'm not saying women can't produce. Women produce greatly. They do great things, but in the context of the Bible, the man is the primary provider and protector. My wife works. My wife makes great money. My wife is very productive. She's very smart, and nothing wrong with that. But who does God hold accountable for being the provider and the protector? Me. He doesn't hold my wife accountable for that. Nothing wrong with her doing those things, but he holds me accountable for doing those things, right? So here in the marriage relationship, right, God has given the man the responsibility of producing, of protecting, and then he's given the woman the responsibility of the helper. Um, the man in the marriage, per God's plan, is the authority in the home. Now, that doesn't mean, here's the problem. Too many men take that responsibility of authority and they abuse it. It's my way or the highway. If God has given me the biblical role of authority in the home, I'm going to turn around and take that authority and include my wife in the decision making. But at the end of the day, God holds me accountable for that decision. So very, 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 I could probably count on one hand the number of times where my wife and I made a decision that I went with the opposite way of what she thought it should go, and I had my reasons for that, right? And it not that one was sinful and one not, just what I believe was the best avenue to take for us, but that is so few and far between. So my wife has an equal voice in this home. We talk about things, we discuss things. So this is not an authoritarian relationship, but is the responsibility of authority, of leadership in the home. Not I'm a dictator. Men, that's not what God said. God never said that the man is the dictator of the home. He said he's the leader of the home. Somebody has to lead. Any organization that doesn't have a leader is an organization that's going to fail. And God has said that the man is the leader, right? And if men, you're poor leaders, well, then tap into your wife. She's there to help you. She's there to be a helper. She's there to give you advice, to direct you, to tell you, to give you good suggestions, to give you, not to tell you what you want to hear, but to tell you what you need to hear, right? So that you got to have a wife that's not afraid to tell you the truth, even if you don't like it. So we get so confused about this. We think this is somehow some dictatorship. That's people on the left side of the political aisle, want to accuse Christians of this patriarchal, that's not the intent. The intent is leadership here, right? And the woman is so critical, so critical to the success of that marriage and the success in that relationship. God gives man the responsibility and the accountability to be the leader in the home, and he gives the woman the responsibility and the accountability to help him. That's God's plan. If you don't like it, don't get married. Now, I can tell you right now, God also warns us about that, about not getting married. In the New Testament, there's warnings in the Bible about not getting married. When in Matthew chapter 19, when the disciples are questioning Jesus about marriage and divorce, And they said, well, then why did Moses give us the permission to divorce if it wasn't okay? And Jesus says, because of the hardness of your hearts. Moses approved divorce because your hearts are hard, because you're stupid people. That's basically what he was saying. He said, God does not intend, he does not want divorce. He does not want divorce. And the disciples kind of come to the conclusion, well, then who can get married, right? And Jesus says only a few cannot get married. Only those, Jesus says in Matthew 19, he says, the only men, and we can apply this to women, but the only men that should not get married are those which God has gifted to not be married, but they're to serve God full time, 100%. And this is not Catholic priests. I'm not sure where the Catholic religion gets there. Let's not marry for the priest. That doesn't come from the Bible. It comes from man-made rules, but it doesn't come from the Bible. So, but this is just for those who have the gift of not getting married. And he says those people will not have the desire for sexual activity to burn inside of them. So there are people that God has gifted to not get married in order to serve God fully 100% with their whole life. Because once you get married, you have other responsibilities. You have a wife and children and all those things that are certainly going to pull on your time. And a person who has been given the gift of the ability to not marry, right? They've been given that gift so they can take on the role of serving God full time in whatever capacity God has called them to do that. It could be a missionary overseas, to be a missionary in a place where being married would be very dangerous to a woman. So therefore, he called a man and give him the gift of just no desire for a woman. Doesn't mean he's gay. It just means he's been given the gift of no desire for a woman. Let's not confuse that. People are given the gift of no sexual desire. They're given that gift. Don't let somebody convince you though that means that somehow you're gay. No, that doesn't mean that. It means God's given you a gift and use it. So anyway, God in this verse here, God has told Adam, it's not good for man to be alone, right? It's not good. The best thing for men is to have a woman, a wife who's his helper, his companion, just for him, a good woman, a godly woman, not any woman, not a woman, the woman, right? And that's what God has designed us for. And she is a helper, and she's comparable to the man. She fits that man. My wife and I fit each other like a glove. We just fit each other. It's just I don't know how to explain that, right? It's hard to explain that we just come together and it works. We're a good team. Yeah, it's an honor. It's an absolute honor to have a marriage that just fits like a glove, and that's what God has intended. And God has that woman for that man, and He has that man for that woman. So please stop chasing anything and everything that moves out there, thinking that you're going to catch something. You're going to catch something, all right. It's not going to be a good woman. It might be something that puts you in the hospital. So we got to be careful out there, right? So, but yeah, this is not this woman is not some tool. She's not just some worker, right? That's supposed to do whatever you want her to do. That's not what God is saying at all. She comes along beside you. Go and read Proverbs 31 about the Proverbs 31 woman. That'll give you a little bit better perspective on the role of a woman for a man and in the family. So she is an equal partner in God's eyes. They're equal in God's eyes with different roles. Again, not everybody can be the leader. So, very difficult. These are difficult passages for those who tend to hate or dislike God's design for marriage. We have decided that we know better than God. And if you look around at the society and culture, we don't. We don't know better than God. That's why we're a stinking mess. So but I spent a lot of time on that verse, and so we'll pick it up there next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.